Jivana Prabhu ki jai. Ragamani Prabhu ki jai.
Charanga Swami ki
Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Vikasa Swami ki
Jai. There you go. Take turn. Oh, you're thankful.
Then we get the last bit of nectar.
There you go. Get in here.
What is the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Jnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Shreshtham Manumapi Shaktiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyamanam Urupam Mantam Krishna Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Sham Bhakto Yasya Patita Kudaya Ashwin Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyata Parikamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tine Smarana Hari Bhigna Vinasham Anaya Shri Hari Nijavam Chita Puran Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Name 922 in Vishnu Sahasranam is Punya Sravana Kirtana. In discussing this, naturally, we discuss how the glorification of Krishna, both in chanting it and in hearing it, is purifying, spiritually pious activity. To better appreciate how this is purifying and pious, we can contrast it with the kind of Sravana Kirtana that we're more accustomed to, that this whole world is filled with. Shravan Kirtan means speaking or singing and hearing and thinking about it, becoming influenced or accepting it. Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana. These are three terms from the Brihadaranyaka. Hearing, thinking about it, and taking it to heart. So in this world, we can't live without hearing and chanting. Of course, it's possible to become a recluse, and in Vedic tradition and in other religious traditions, there are persons who simply go away from the world and don't have anything to do with anyone, or they are largely recluses. There's a term in English, it sounds like it might be in French also, because it's It sounds like it comes from the Latin. Well, there's the word cloister, which you maybe know, monks and nuns, they go and stay in cloisters. And then there's the word cloistered. It's changed. In English, nouns are turned into verbs, and verbs are turned into nouns. And so cloistered means to be shut away. So there are the monks and nuns who spend most of their life praying and meditating. Contemplating is the word they use, not meditating, contemplating. There's also solitary confinement, which is a punishment. Because man is a social animal. We like to be with others and talk about something. If we don't talk about topics related to Krishna, then we'll have to talk about topics which are not related to Krishna. And as hearing and chanting about Krishna is Punya Sravana Kirtana, it's pious hearing and chanting. So others, they are Papa Sravana Kirtana, it's impious, it binds us in this material world. Now we hear often, or we ourselves involve ourselves in discussions of, we may involve in discussions of legal matters, financial matters, political matters, technical matters. But if it's in relation to the service of Krishna, it's also Krishna conscious. If we're discussing some legal matter in relation to the Krishna consciousness movement, that's also devotional service. By being related with Krishna. We have in the 9 processes of devotional service, hearing, chanting, remembering, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishwa, Smara. These 9 processes are there. And others, these are direct processes of devotional service. And others, they're also directly devotional service if they are discussing legal matters, visiting a lawyer, considering which kind of cloth is best to purchase for the deities. We're looking at different clothes and the materials. You may say, well, materialistic people do that also. But if it's for the service of Krishna, or even carpentry, Matsya Avatar Prabhu supervised this Singhasan and all the considering what is the best marble to purchase. And then you have to have some knowledge of that to know, or you have to consult someone who knows about these things. So it's mundane, but it's spiritualized. As much as iron put in a fire. It's iron, but it becomes just like fire if it's kept in a fire. If you touch it, it will burn. If you touch it to some paper, the paper will catch on fire. It attains the quality of fire by being in association with fire. But then if you take it out of the fire, again it cools down and becomes an ordinary iron rod. Therefore we have to cultivate also directly hearing and chanting about Krishna, because if we glorify God, we become godly, and if we glorify rascals, we become a rascal. Shravidvara Hushrakai Sanstuta Purusha Pasho Nayat Karma Pato Peta Jatu Nama Gadavraja. If we glorify people, exactly the persons who are like dogs, hogs, camels and asses, glorify persons upon whose tongue never comes the name of Krishna. Become a dog or a hog. Of course there's also scope for appreciating a dog. We have in Charnakya Chanakya has given some appreciation of a dog. Of course, that's very much part of Western culture to appreciate dogs. And definitely not part of Vedic culture. But Chanakya also quotes, and Srila Prabhupada quoted it also. What is it? Things we can learn from a dog. One thing is very faithful to the master. Another is, as soon as he's awake, he's alert. Another is that he's content, whatever little he is, yadrichalabha santushtaha, the quality of a yogi given in Bhagavad Gita. Whatever he gets, he's satisfied. Give him a little food, he's satisfied. So these are qualities of a dog which can be appreciated. But not that we become dog conscious. We have to become God conscious. And that is possible by glorifying Krishna and hearing glorification of Krishna. That is Punya Sravana Kirtana. Why does that awaken Krishna consciousness? Well, psychologically, we can say, just like we talk. If we talk about who are the presidents of La France is Monsieur Macron. Is that how you pronounce it? So there are plenty of people in France and even beyond France. What business do I have with Monsieur Macron? Except I'm in this country at the present time. I've also heard his name. There are many people all over the world who are hearing and chanting about Monsieur Macron. But it won't last very long. Sometimes I ask, in India, I ask people, so you know who was Chandrasekhar? And maybe 25 years ago, his name was all over the papers in India every day. He was the Prime Minister of India, but nowadays hardly anyone even remembers his name. There's another one, this from Karnataka, the only what was his name? You also never probably heard of him. Devagowda. Yeah, you know, from South India. Devagowda. He's still alive, I think. Big names in Indian politics, and now people don't even know their names. So big, such big figures, but it's very soon forgotten. There was after Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, and there were big posters put up in different parts of India. Rajiv Gandhi Amar Hai. Amar means deathless. He's just killed, dead. But it was deathless in the sense that he will be remembered forever. Unlikely. Another thing, often in India, when I'm traveling around, I ask people, who is the last Raja in this area? Because they used to have Maharajas or Nawabs, the Muslim equivalent. And no one knows. There was, at the time, there were such big figures and forgotten. So, with all due respect to Monsieur Macron, and he should be respected, we see the example when the Nawab came into the court of Sanatan Goswami, where Sanatan Goswami was having Bhagavatam reading. Everyone stood up to respect him, so he should be respected for the position that he's got due to his previous pious activities. To have such a position, you have to have some pious activity in the past. Srila Prabhupada said that about Christopher Columbus. By his previous pious activities, he was able to get the credit for discovering America. Of course, there are people already there, but they don't count because they weren't Europeans. So, yeah, so the point if we talk about political figures, we discuss so much. I remember once, this was must have been late 1970s. I was in West Bengal, and I'm traveling Sankirtan party, and became very sick. So I was left in the house of a life member to recover, and every evening he would sit with his friends for about 3 hours and just discuss politics. Every evening. Not that anything they say would have any influence on the politics whatsoever. And they just go on and on and on discussing. And it was, they relished it. They had a taste for it. So that's one reason. Whatever we make, that we have to have something to talk about. In England, the common subject of this is nothing to talk about. In particular, you talk about the weather. Oh, it's a very nice day today. I just heard a joke yesterday from Scotland. That I like the Scottish summer very much. It's the best day of the year. You know, well, it's British humour, I guess, different in France.
English humour.
It's English humour. Okay. And one from Ireland. Now, are we veering into Prajalpa here? Maybe I like it if I tell the joke, but you're not really supposed to. Okay, I'll tell it. If you don't like the weather in Ireland, don't worry. It'll change in 5 minutes. So there you go. So whatever we discuss, we tend to meditate upon it and internalize it, and it becomes a very big thing. I've seen even among devotees in America, mostly devotees in America, are very politically conscious. We have Democrat devotees and Republican devotees, and they're really into it. There are not many who are neutral. I think they all should be neutral, because it's this flavor of cat and dog, or that flavor of cat and dog, and pros and cons, you could say, but basically they're all demons. They become very exciting. What's going to be in the election, and watching it very seriously to see who will win the election. They become absorbed in that. It's not very conducive for getting free from birth and death, what to speak of developing love of God. Whatever we think about, we become. That's called, what's the word for that? I can't remember, there is some word there, but how the animal, or the insect which is captured by another bigger insect, by meditating in fear on that insect, becomes that insect. He gets a form like that. We find in Bhagavatam and in Brahma Samhita that any way we hear and chant about Krishna, or meditate upon Krishna, that will bring us into Krishna consciousness. Kamsa was highly Krishna conscious. Even in his dreams he was thinking of Krishna spontaneously. But he's not a devotee. So does that count as Punya Sravana Kirtan? What does it count as? Well, it's in one sense pious, because you're always thinking of Krishna. And he got a good result. He was killed by Krishna. So that's, for a demon, that's the best thing possible. Until Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement comes. That's psychology, that by hearing and chanting about any topic we become absorbed in it. But there's another reason also. If we hear and chant about Krishna, Krishna becomes pleased and he gives his mercy to us. Krishna is so fond of his own glorification. Everyone likes to be glorified. Mostly, it's a tendency. If we're walking past and we hear someone say our name, well, what do they say? Oh, what do they say? We become interested. Krishna is so fond of his own glorification that he glorifies himself. That's not a good quality to glorify oneself, is it? We think that's very egoistic. Yes, that's a fact. Krishna is the most egoistic person in the whole of existence. He says, surrender everything, just give up everything and fully give yourself to me. I am supreme. For anyone else except Krishna to say, I am supreme, is blasphemy. But when Krishna says it, it's just a fact. So you can say he's got the biggest ego of all. He's the biggest everything, including the biggest ego. But for him, it is appropriate. Because just as Jiva Swarup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das, the constitutional position of the Jiva is to be the servant of Krishna. So Krishna's constitutional position is to be the master of all living beings. So he is the best. If anyone else says, I am the best, he's simply an illusion. And Krishna needs to, because of his kindness to us, he needs to tell us that he is the best. He speaks in the Bhagavad Gita glorifying himself. All the Shastras, Vede Ramayana Chaiva Purane Bharata Tata Adavante Madhe Cha Hari Sarvatra Giyate. In all the Shastras, Vedas, Ramayana, Puranas, only Krishna, Hari, is glorified. And he arranges for himself to be glorified. He gives the process of devotional service, systematic process for glorifying him. He incites others to praise him by offering them boons. He incites others to serve him. If we want materialistic results, we can get by praising Krishna, by serving Krishna. If we want to be liberated from this material world, whatever we want, we can get from Krishna. He's a wish-fulfilling tree. He arranges for his glorification so that we may be purified. And as I was saying the other day, that's one reason why chanting of Vishnu Sahasranam is very popular, even up to the present day, among pious people. Most of them don't do so with the specific intention simply to glorify Krishna, but we think, well, we get so many good results from doing so. Well, it will mitigate inauspiciousness. Everything will be good in this life and the next life. They're not pure devotees. Some of them are not devotees according to Rupa Goswami's definition at all. They're Mayavadis, but they chant because they have faith that by doing so, Vishnu will benefit them. So Krishna, he likes to be glorified. And I say, why? Why is he like that? Well, he is like that. It's also his compassion, because he knows we'll be benefited. And that tendency that comes to us also, because in material consciousness, you know, we want to glorify ourselves. People engage in so many activities which are aimed at their own glorification. People dedicate themselves, they work so hard, they're very regulated and very disciplined in order to become the best athlete, the fastest runner, the fastest swimmer. They want to be the best. I am the best, said Cassius Clay after winning the world of the Olympic boxing gold medal in Tokyo in 1964. I do remember. I am the best, he said. Later he became a Muslim, and he said, previously said, I am the best. Now I know Allah is the best. Allahu Akbar. But why go through so much training and discipline, just with the hope of becoming the best? I am the greatest. I am the great. That's right. Thank you very much. I am the greatest. Yeah. And then we become very happy. But all these sports, they're a formula for increasing unhappiness, because one wins and all the others, one person is happy and all the others are unhappy because they didn't win. But just the thought that I could win, that keeps them going on, keeps them going on. We consider someone a friend, someone who praises us, and an enemy, someone who criticizes us. Although it may be the false friend, we call them fair weather friends. Maybe you have a saying in France. French, you must have something similar. Fair weather friends. As long as things are going on well, especially people who have a lot of money, they have many friends. And then when they lose all their money, they lose all their friends also, because they weren't friends at all. Someone who praises us is a friend, someone who criticizes us an enemy. That's not necessarily true, maybe around the other way. And maybe a good friend is one who will criticize also. Actually, that's true for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who praises him is a devotee, and one who criticizes him is a demon. Because he has no bad qualities. There's nothing to criticize. He should be praised. But fools like to be flattered. And they can be manipulated by flattery. And that's why people go to so much endeavor to be praised. They think this is something wonderful. I won the Nobel Prize. I won the 100-meter sprint competition. I won this gold medal and that gold medal. And so they like their name will be chanted here and there. It's imitation of God. The big leaders in the world, they take pleasure in their names being broadcast in the newspapers, in the radio. These are all out of date, the newspapers and radios. Anyway, their names become widely heard and chanted. What's in a name? The saying is there. What's so great about a name? A rose would smell as sweet by any other name. It has its own quality, and we ascribe a name to it. Of course, that's different with Vishnu's names. We're discussing 1,000 names of Vishnu. They're not arbitrary names. Actually, in Sanskrit, no name or no word is arbitrary. It all has a meaning. And the meanings don't change. The word for, or the words for tree in Sanskrit are the same as they were thousands of years ago, because it doesn't change as dialects evolve, because they're all derived from Sanskrit roots and they all have meanings. And they're more than one word. The word vriksha means that which is suitable for cutting. It means a tree. Padapa means who drinks through his leg. It's a name for a tree. So it doesn't change. So Krishna's names, they all have meaning, and this Vishnu Sahasranama is discussed to bring out the meanings of the names so we can better appreciate those names. Srila Prabhupada explained that we can chant anything. We can chant Krishna, we can chant Coca-Cola, but we get bored by chanting Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. There's no incentive to do so. We simply get bored. And it gives us no benefit. And we don't get Coca-Cola, which is probably a good thing anyway. But we don't get what we want simply by chanting a mundane. It doesn't manifest a mundane sound. If we can chant money, 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 we can go on all day and night, but money doesn't come. In fact, if you want money, it'd be better not to chant money, 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 and do something by which you can earn some money. But chanting Krishna, 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 because Krishna's name is no different. We can chant water, 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 water. We'll get more thirsty, not less thirsty, by going on chanting and chanting and chanting. But if we chant the names of Krishna, because Krishna's names are non-different from him, then we get Krishna. Krishna Nam Hoite Pade Krishna Acharan. We attain Krishna by chanting his names. So, Punya Sravana Kirtana. We should engage in the pious activities of hearing and chanting about Krishna, his names, his forms, his qualities, and passing. We have to talk about something. It may be, people are judged to a large extent by what they say, especially in intellectual circles. One establishes himself as an authority on some subject by speaking on it. That should be backed by some knowledge. Of course, nowadays it's coming to light more and more that in academia, in science particularly, a lot of the research is literally bogus. The scientists just make up the results, and who's going to check it? Because there are so many experiments going on, and they just make up something and then they get a prize, and it's just bogus. And only a certain percentage of them get found out. So a lot of what comes, even they make medical reports which are bogus, and then they produce some medicine, and when enough people have died from the so-called medicine, then they think, well, maybe it wasn't so good after all. But they want to say something, do something. Everyone has to make their point by speaking or singing. That's another big thing, isn't it? Music, singing. Srila Prabhupada was astonished that singers, musicians were given so much importance. The Beatles, he met the Beatles. So much importance was given. What? They're just singers. They sing something. It's not some nonsense thing. And it may sound very meaningful. Love, love, love. All you need is love. It's not the most developed philosophical understanding, especially if you consider that love in human society is not much more developed than that the cats and dogs have among themselves. We have to say something, and people make their whole careers on speaking or singing, comedian, politicians make their careers. If you may have very good ideas what to do, but you have to be a good orator, and you have to be good looking, because people don't vote for you. There's not a qualification to be a politician. It shouldn't be. But if you're good looking, you have a better chance of being voted in. And if you can speak in a way which sounds very convincing, it may be all nonsense, but it's very convincing. That's this, up to the present day, people at least in the English-speaking world, they're fascinated by the personality of Adolf Hitler. And his speaking, he was a very gifted motivational speaker. He motivated, he galvanized, brought people together, got them united, got them to do what he wanted, convinced them that what he said was right. It sounded to literally millions of people that what he said was right on. Hmm? He was taking amphetamines. Yeah, but it's not that everyone who takes amphetamines is a gifted speaker or a charismatic leader. So he was gifted by the illusion. He had the gift from the illusory energy of Krishna to lead others by his he was speaking and others were hearing. It was Sravana Kirtan, but it was not purifying. It was very demoniac. But people think he was right. Well, lots of people talk and what they say is just meaningless. So maybe that's better than being a demoniac motivational speaker. But apparently whatever you say, someone's going to believe it. I don't recommend it, but you could make an experiment and start your own religion. Oh, no need to. I can give an example. There are a lot of people who believe that the Earth planet is already invaded by lizards.
Yes.
You heard of that one?
Reptilians.
Reptilians. There was a movie, I don't know, some 30 years ago or so called E.T. And I guess that, I didn't see it, but I saw the posters for it everywhere. And many people believe, maybe some of you here believe it, I don't know. Maybe I'll get shot for saying this, but it seems to me like an exceptionally stupid idea that reptilian beings have invaded the earth and they're already infiltrating human society. It seems to me to be the kind of thing that you could make a cartoon out of or a comedy, but many people seriously believe it. So whatever you say, someone's going to believe it. And maybe many people will believe it. That's the big lie, right? If you tell a little lie, people will doubt it. If you make a big lie, people think, well, you couldn't lie about a thing like that. It must be true. On and on and on. We're always talking something. We're always blah, 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 behind the, it's just like the sea waves. The sea waves are making so much noise and always coming up, because underneath there's an agitated ocean. So underneath the mind is agitated and it comes out as words. In this regard, I'm going to quote from the great sage William Shakespeare. Why do I call him a great sage? Well, he did have many insights on the human condition, which is maybe one reason why he's so popular. Probably not in France. You have your own literary figures here. Anyway, a famous quote from one of his most famous plays, maybe his most famous, Macbeth. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So there you have the whole human condition summarized. Talking so many things, blah 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 blah, and it all comes to nothing. It's all meaningless. Actually, it all comes to repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. But there's nothing of substance. It's just we're talking something which we think is very important, but it's all external to our real existence, our real need, which is to be connected with Krishna. And in this regard, I'm going to quote from Srila Prabhupada's purport to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 3. The whole material creation is a jugglery of names only. In fact, It is nothing but a bewildering creation of matter like earth, water and fire. The buildings, furniture, cars, bungalows, mills, factories, industries, peace, war, or even the highest perfection of material science, namely atomic energy and electronics, are all simply bewildering names of material elements with their concomitant reactions of the three modes. Since the devotee of the Lord knows them perfectly well, he is not interested in creating unwanted things for a situation which is not at all reality, but simply names of no more significance than the babble of sea waves. The babble. You probably have this word also in French, right? Babble, something similar. Baboule. Baboule. Well, that's from, we have in the Bible, the Tower of Babel. You know this? It's something like Ravana's wanting to build a staircase to the heavenly planets. So people in a city called Babel, they were building a tower with the idea of building it up to heaven. And then was it God or some archangel came and zapped them all. And as a punishment made them speak different languages. Made them speak all different languages so they couldn't communicate with each other, and then they couldn't cooperate to build the tower anymore. Is that right, Prithubhu? You're a resident biblical expert. It sounds like what we would call mythology. So then Babel means because in English there's the saying double Dutch. When someone speaks all nonsense, we say double Dutch, because at one point in British history, so many Dutch people came to live in Britain because Britain, or England at the time, was very religiously tolerant toward Protestants. So they migrated from Holland to save their lives, and then they'd be talking among themselves, and the English people couldn't understand it. So if you can't understand anything, you say double Dutch. It's Dutch but worse, twice as bad. So the different languages, we can't understand what people are saying, and to us it just sounds like a bunch of nonsense. But it has meaning to them. It seems to have meaning. But what Srila Prabhupada is saying here is that none of it has any meaning in any language. Even Srila Prabhupada says war and peace. It has no more significance than the babble of sea waves. And just now we're discussing about war in Ukraine. It's not war, it's a special military operation. Not war. Right? You see, words are so powerful by manipulation of words. I'm not beating you, I'm just moving a stick up and down very vigorously, and your body happens to be in the way. Misuse of words. So even war it has no ultimate significance. So people are getting killed. But it's just another, it's seen in the vision of eternity. It's just another phase that we go through. When I was in the body of an insect once, I was just crawling on the ground, and then I didn't know anything about it, but someone stepped on me, and that was the end of that body. The human didn't even know, and even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Just one life has ended like that. So it's another life has come to an end. Of course, human life is very valuable. But if we're misusing it, then our life is no better than that of an insect. And similarly, to talk about all these things, again, if we talk about it in relation to Krishna and Krishna consciousness, yeah, can be done, but we should be careful not to become so absorbed in those topics. I'm studying computer science because I need to maintain a family, I have to do something. So, well, that's the kind of thing where you have to be absorbed and you have to keep on many topics. We have to keep on updating our knowledge. If we study medicine, it's a very big thing to become a doctor. We have to study several years intensely. But you have to go throughout your life updating your knowledge, because medical science is always developing. There are newer treatments and this and that. So in that sense, it's another sense where it's good to have a simple society in which we don't have to discover new things all the time. We don't have to discover new ways to graze the cows. It's the same method that's been used since time immemorial. New ways to heat milk. It's simple life. Then we don't have to involve our consciousness with thinking about so many things which detract us away from Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada wanted to set up communities in which devotees could live very simply, so that they could maximize their time for serving Krishna, hearing and chanting about Krishna, for Punya, Sravana, Kirtana. I'll finish there, and I still have quite a bit more to do on this, but I'll leave that for another session. So today was a discussion more about Papa Sravana Kirtana and Punya Sravana Kirtana, just to see the context of how it is so much more valuable to engage in Punya Sravana Kirtana, talking of and discussing Krishna, than engaging in the kind of hearing and chanting that will distract us from the real goal of life, which is hearing and chanting about Krishna. Hearing and chanting about Krishna is the means to satisfy Krishna, to become Krishna conscious. And when we are Krishna conscious, then naturally we will glorify Krishna. And we have so many prayers in the Bhagavatam. Devotees spontaneously start glorifying Krishna. They don't have to have a fixed schedule, but they do so. Fixed schedule, morning class, all these things, but they do so spontaneously, automatically. Hare Krishna. And finish that. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
A very nice report. The National Health Service in England gave a very encouraging report just recently. It says, we're working on it, we have a big problem. You might not be able to receive treatment. We're doing our best because the number of people, percentage, not quantity, of people with chronic diseases is increasing rapidly in England. Incredible. And people kind of buy it, well, they're helping us. But the percentage is increasing, not the numbers itself. Amazing. With all of their so-called advanced technology.
Advance, yeah. I read recently an unpublished manuscript by Tejas Prabhu, Godbrother, analyzing how modern medicine hasn't helped people actually at all. And in terms of disease, there's as much disease, if not more, as there's ever been. And he was saying like all these vaccines were made for tuberculosis and everything. By the time they discovered the vaccine, anyway, the epidemic was dying out by itself anyway. So, anyway. You all got vaccinated, I hope.
No. We don't want to.
You didn't get vaccinated?
No. We don't want.
I in a class in Salem said to all my assembled disciples, you must get vaccinated. I told them all. And I told them, what is that vaccine? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Best vaccination against birth and death. No, I got vaccinated. I have a certificate to show I'm vaccinated. Government of India.
How much did that cost?
No, I did it free because I'm a sadhu. I know I've got a brother who did it in New York City. Got a certificate. So it's not only India. Oh, it's not there anyway, is it? You stopped the recording? Oh, well, I thought you'd stopped. Anyway, you finished recording.